So since we talked last, I was I had already lots more realizations and understandings of the things you said to me today that we spoke. And sometimes it seems it makes no sense to ask any more questions, because actually what you told me is to go to the nothingness and drop everything. You keep saying that in a lot of times. So, but I have two questions. Is there awareness in nothingness?
Yes, but not the awareness that you may talk about, like not like say awareness of something necessarily. It's not functioning like that. Or you can say there could be awareness of the nothingness even, you can say like that.
Yeah. I feel consciousness is before awareness, before nothingness. Nothingness, and then out of it arises consciousness.
I think nothingness in terms of the concept of nothingness, maybe you're talking like that. But when I refer to this nothingness, I'm not talking about a concept of nothingness. You see? There, everything is left at some secondary. Everything else is else. You've left that zone.
It just is. It's the space where it just is. I have a hard time speaking.
Okay.
Is that what you mean? It just is?
Yeah. Remember, when you speak like that, you're not referring to some abstract state somewhere else. You're speaking about what is here now, isn't it? I'm always watching for that. If you speak about something and it's like you're talking about it as though it's an it somewhere else, and so I said, no, that's not how I mean. That is underlying everything that all your moods or thoughts or identities or discussions or philosophies. Everything is secondary to that. Just like clouds floating in that sky or something. So the nothingness, I don't feel any urge to make any kind of comparison or to measurement between nothingness and awareness. I can say that if you speak about the nothingness, it's because somehow you're aware of it. No? But I don't want to say much more than this, because I don't feel that distinctions hold any strength in the actuality of the experience. Your mind will not have the power to keep going on with procrastinating or something. Your mind will not have the power. It will lose the power. You see, and so your thoughts are replaced with direct experience, which is very different. You will not be able to multiply concepts after a certain point. If your seeing is authentic, the energy to think further will just fall away by itself. And your questions will also drop away. Very few questions are really important, no? When you say if truth is what you're searching for, it's not a deep, far, lots of thinking. It's very simple, because it's non-conceptual. It's not. When you speak about the what is, it's not a bundle of sacred concepts or something. So even the idea of sort of like reaching it or retaining it are just ideas arising in it. But I'm looking for when you actually meet that in true seeing, because if you do, this conversation won't last very long. It shouldn't go on to another stage of okay, after this then what? No, I said no. I've told you enough to fill your belly. You see? So at this level of introspection, it's very we don't have any distance much to go. It's just clarifying a few little things, and you're in that incomparable state, if you want to say. You would have your questions satisfied. You'll not be able to raise further questions. Come.
Does attention arise out of consciousness?
Say again.
Attention. The attention
Attention or a tension. What did you say?
No, attention.
Attention.
That I give to, that I can cast on my as a witness. The attention I give to, that I place inside the observer. And
when you say I, what are you referring to? So let's slow down a little
me,
bit.
the person.
Then we can't go far with that. If you say, "Oh, this is the person's question," you're giving. A person is a very overrated state, you know. And so I cannot accept the person's questions as being so credible. You are aware of the person to say it's coming from the person. So if you know it's coming from the person, do you want to persist with that, or what? Because if you say it's coming from the person, it doesn't give much validity to it. It's just another kind of thought, feeling where you. You see, I have a little trouble with this type of thing. When you say it's coming from the person, I'm not interested in answering the person's questions. You must understand what the person, when you say person, what it means. Whatever is personal is not stable. So any answer I give you, you cannot hold it because you, the one who received the answer, is not stable. You see, if you understand that, then
well, it feels like the person, but I'm not sure it's the person because everything is so mixed.
okay.
So
That which is aware of even the subtlest mixture is that itself mixed. That which is aware of even the subtlest mixture is that itself mixed. Is it mixed also? You can see something is mixed. Even a subtle way you can say, yeah, you know, there's, or all of this, the mind, emotion, thought, consciousness, it's not things, it's all kind of one soup of things. So that is being perceived. That which perceives this, is that trapped in the bubble of what it's perceiving? Okay, so go back to that then and see if there's something that needs. Does that need something? You see, the responses are very, very simple. The only difficulty, if there's one, is that somehow the habit to identify as a person seems, and the desires and urges of the person seem to have some credibility that is not easy to drop that. But my response already is finished. It's very quick, simple, you see. Yeah? If there's a kind of maturity, is whether somehow the answer somehow can throw enough light on any misunderstanding as to put it out altogether. Because maybe the answer comes, but you're not able to really assimilate the answer, to really make use of it. We can try again. It's useful because even if you say it comes from the person, that's okay, but are you that person? Are you addressing yourself as that person who is asking the question?
often comes from a place where I use the person to communicate with you at the moment.
Okay. For what reason? I mean, do you have to descend into the realm of personhood to communicate with me? Is it a descending or an ascending?
It seems like a descending.
Yeah, it's so easy. I'm not interested in that. Why would you leave a more auspicious state to get into a much more complex or messy state to communicate what would be so important about that? It doesn't seem to make sense. If you had to sort of like drop the level of your own wisdom to communicate something, it means you know already. Then why would you have to somehow go down to find a point that I've not asked you about? You brought this conversation up.
It seems I went into this game of person, and now I don't know exactly how to get out of it.
That's why I asked you. You being what? What are you referring to yourself as? You went down. You went into the realm of personhood. You're not able to come out. You see?
I feel I'm consciousness, and I'm put attention in the person.
And now you see the person is without that reality that you. Why you want to come out now?
Because it seems the person takes on its own life and becomes more powerful than myself, than the consciousness. It just takes off and it overruns me sometimes. And I don't like it.
You're still in the mind for that. Yeah. I mean, the person is not. The person cannot survive independent of consciousness. So it doesn't have a life by its own, so to speak. Really. It kind of runs on phantom power. You understand what I mean by this? That it has to draw its life from a higher source that seems to believe in it. And like this, it seems to get some power to continue. Otherwise, it doesn't have any power. So your belief or the identity you wear energizes that personhood state. The minute it doesn't have a significance for you, it begins to diminish in power immediately. You should notice. You can see this.
But it seems like I'm wearing the person.
You're wearing it
as a protection, or because sometimes the world feels very threatening.
That is coming through the person. That's the person's view.
Yeah.
So you say you are wearing the person because the world seems threatening. You see, but it's to the person that the world feels threatening, not to the self. It's only to clarify this, it's not nothing. So it's only to clarify. I think the mix-upness is to do with identity more than anything after that. The mixed-upness is coming from the identity and not coming from the things. It's like the idea you have of yourself is suffering from other ideas it has about itself. The idea you have about who you are is suffering from its own projections. So it's like 2 steps out. The source consciousness does not suffer. It sees this, it understands it, perceives this, but it's not shaken by that, it's not disturbed by it, it's not affected by it. If your introspections are really coming from the state of the person, you're going to go around in circles actually. You must quickly see that they are just the imaginings of the person. And are you able to see that and dismount? Even that is saying too much, you don't even have to dismount. When you see something, when you see through an illusion, it immediately loses power. It's not that you have to go and then take it somewhere else and get rid of it. The nature of the illusion is that when you see what it is, immediately its power is gone. That's a kind of crucial point of it, so that you're not merely just entertaining a kind of spiritual mind about these things, but you can, just kind of sweep aside the things which are not relevant and get to the heart of it.
Let's do that.
Yes. What would be in the way?
I can't identify it.
Does that imply that there is something in the way?
There must be. I would be there. I would be looking.
I mean, when you say I would be there, just for clarity's sake, what do you mean when you say there? What do you mean by there? There is what?
Be filled up with the sense of presence.
But even a sense of presence also is perceivable.
Is perceivable?
Yes. There's nothing negative in saying that, a sense of presence is our natural and intuitive way, or your untaught way of knowing you exist, isn't it? The feeling I exist and presence are not different. It's that, no? It is there already, you don't have to do anything to help that. It is there. The only thing is that it is misunderstood or taken to mean person, which is far greater than a person. A person is it's also consciousness, but a very limited or contracted form of consciousness, which you have tasted. We all have done it. So you said, if I was here, if I was in that pure state, I would be filled up with presence. Or who's filled up with presence means what? You are presence. You know you exist, you naturally. And if you don't attach so many interpretations to that and add things to it, just a pure sense of existence, or unmixed presence, that is it. Simple like that. It doesn't come with some history, or it doesn't come with any of that. It's just a sense of presence. That's all. Which you may call relative to the waking state and all that appears in the waking state. The sense of presence seems constant relative to the functioning of the waking state. But when the time of sleep comes, this sense of presence also goes.
But there's a presence that even continues in the sleep.
You'd call it presence. You'd call it presence. But in deep sleep, you're not even really aware of the I am feeling. Maybe in some very subtle way that might be there. Or the potential for that to somehow sprout is there. But it is not your sleep experience.
But there's this something that watches me while I'm sleeping, that watches what happens, what I'm thinking, what I'm dreaming.
No, that's not sleep. That's dreaming, that's different. It means that the consciousness is still active, it's still negotiating, it's still interpreting, it is still You see? Evaluating, it is still contemplating, it's still thinking, or whatever it is. But you refer to the deep sleep, beyond the state of you and me-ness. Yeah? And I don't think we can admit to a true break in our existence, in our being. Just the way in which we perceive ourselves is changing that. Mm-hmm. But I don't sense that, like I call some questions, I call knowledge questions, and some questions are freedom questions. Mm-hmm. The knowledge question is building up information, this. A freedom question is a different thing. Isn't it? Freedom question means something that now you induce a state of risk. That maybe what you may come to understand or experience could create some radical shift in the way that you perceive, and could bring about some, it cannot create anything about the self, but it can maybe blow away some delusions you hold on to about the true self or something. I say this because often there's some risk, the feeling of risk, whenever the ego sense feels challenged, although we say I want to get rid of the ego. But in the actuality of that happening, some hesitations are likely to come, a fear, because you're not quite sure if the ego slips away, that you might be losing something valuable or something. And I put that at one of the reasons why it seems we avoid full seeing, because there's a sense I might lose something which in your mind you give a greater value to, even a greater value than truth in actuality. But when you speak, you may say, no, of course, I'm here for the truth. But in the moment of the real possibility to discover something, some hesitations may come. And I only want you to know that those hesitations are not coming from your pure self. They're coming from the identity. I mean, if this was your last half an hour in this body, I would like to know if there's a question. I'd like to know what kind of question you'd put, or what desire you would have for something. What is the state of play? What would be the state of your existence? How would you feel inside this body? Did you have any request, or Yeah. Some people take a question like this, they're good, they're able to kind of get into the role of it and really check it out, rather than just speculate. There's no fire in your question yet, you see.
Sorry.
You're sorry? What happened?
Being afraid.
What are you afraid of? It's gone. Yes? Okay. There's a lot of bluff in the mind. Sometimes we have a feeling that you have to wait for the right moment, and when you have enough courage and all of this thing. But that doesn't have anything to do with the self. It doesn't have anything to do with the self. It doesn't find one moment more auspicious than another, because it does not want anything at all. It does not stand to gain anything, to benefit from anything. or to be lessened by anything at all. So can you imagine how freeing that is when you're not really there's no measurement for you, there are no conditions for you. There's nothing you can do that is so wrong or so bad or so good to be more the self, isn't it? If you hear this, it allows you to just give up all this self-torturing and psychological gymnastics and all of that stuff. It is the person who suffers spirituality and suffers from the ego who finds it such a ride. At a certain point you're able to look and see that the person itself is part of the Maya, part of the illusion. It is okay, because I don't find personhood or the play, the costume of personhood or personality, to be particularly offensive in itself. It could be there. If it becomes superficial, it is okay, it can be playful. It's when it is taken seriously, when identity arises from consciousness and then takes the person to be a fact, then the poison is released somehow. You can say like that. In the bigger picture, you can say it is consciousness that plays, even that part is played by the consciousness itself. But every problem is personal. You can say in a way that the consciousness is suffering the person. And that's the play, it seems. Not the total consciousness, not the pure, but some capacity or some potential within the consciousness, the dynamic consciousness, I mean, takes on the garment of personhood and suffer it as an experience. It's not totally blind to that somehow. It seems necessary for the game of life to be tasted, to go to all the extremes have to be touched upon at some point. And through the very suffering, the consciousness draws enough power and depth to reflect upon itself again or something. So don't look upon any hardship as, this, what did I do wrong? As you don't have to do things wrong. Sometimes that has a part to play, but not only that. The whole game of the life of duality includes that. If you take out the personal, responsibility and blame, or go too deeply into that, you'll find that it's not what things are, it's how you perceive them that then determines the impact it will have upon you. And nothing has one meaning. You give it the meaning. You give it the meaning. And sometimes you keep changing the meaning of things according to your mood or something, or development or something like that. And nothing exists with one single meaning. All is potential. And as we evolve more towards emptiness, the mind becomes a much less complex zone. Things become much more easy easily comprehended. No, nothing troubles you. When you're not personal, everything flows, or is seen to flow. When you're personal, things still flow, but you don't see them. You're too busy creating trouble. Not intentionally, of course. In one way, we can say it's also easy, so simple. Oceans of love and peace is here, oozing out of you, and seemingly blocked just by some notion that we preserve in ourselves that we are this person. I don't know. Maybe a dream soon over. I don't know. It's like a very thin veil between the person and the self. Like, in a way, the person is the self, but not quite. Somebody told me that the difference, like one gene or something. I don't know about these things. I heard somebody say like this one time. That just something like one gene separate the man from the monkeys. I don't know. Some people shake their head. I don't know if they know even. We read these things. I thought, look at that. It's amazing. Huh?
1% of DNA.
1%.
1% genes.
1% genes. Whatever that means. 1% genes.
Yeah, DNA.
See, I don't even know what that is. But it sounds like a very tiny percent, like very tiny percent, little drop. And what a vast difference in the functioning. And it seems that just one thing seemed to create the sense of separation. You know? I don't even feel like saying between this and that, because there is no two things really to be between. You know? But that created disillusion. And yet how vast it can feel, what a big difference it can seem to make. And there's still such a tremendous amount of effort put, to try and analyze and to work out and to practice and to breathe and to sit and to do and you see. But I found it all still within the dreaming mind. This one, something in us. Maybe you could call it grace. I don't think it is. It's not outside. And it can function in a kind of like a slow release tablet, or it could be a whack on the head. But it changes the way in which we perceive and the position we seem to be looking from. For the most part, the human expression of consciousness has adopted a certain posture or position from where it thinks the fact of itself begins, like that. But it's still only fiction, and only that has to be seen. There are some inexplicable thing there also. It's not just intelligence only. It's not just intelligence only. Sometimes it feels like a spell. I don't know. But it seems only grace can release it. And it's a paradox, because At the same time, we are that. You do come back to a state of emptiness. When we look from the perspective of the person or from the conditioned mind or the psychological identity, emptiness is not appealing mostly. Sometimes it feels like it has a power there. But the actuality and the actualization of being empty sends terror into the ego mind because of the exaggerated feeling of control, the need for control. And this sense of control seemed to substitute or hide that recognition of the intuitive function of the world. That somehow you feel responsible for what will happen or things like this. Better to keep the mind empty and silent than try and use it to figure out life. Then existence, your life, might just become magical again. Miraculous, maybe you can say. Not even that you even are that fascinated by miracles. All of it is miraculous.
Sitaram, Jai Jai Ram. Sitaram, Jai Jai Ram. Sitaram.